Hey everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Six-Path Weeb, your storyteller through alternate timelines, hidden truths, and the what-ifs of the shinobi world. Today's fanfic dives into a darker twist on a familiar face. What if Naruko's smile hid a crimson curse? A smile can be warmth. Or a warning. In this tale, it's both. Disclaimer. This content is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. I failed. Everything I've worked for feels like it meant nothing. I couldn't bring my best friend back. I couldn't keep my promise. I couldn't hold on to my own path. A blonde-haired girl laid on her bed, her cheeks damp with tears. Naruko Uzumaki, a determined and spirited kunoichi, stared quietly at the ceiling of her small apartment. The weight of her recent mission, the attempt to bring her friend Sasuke Uchiha home, hung heavy on her heart. But more than the mission itself, it was the disappointed look on Sakura's face that cut the deepest. Her thoughts drifted back to that day. Flashback. Naruko's eyes fluttered open to the sight of a softly lit white ceiling and the sterile scent of a hospital room. She blinked a few times, registering that she was in a hospital bed. Beside her, a familiar and caring face came into focus. Shizune. Nichin? Shizune smiled warmly at Naruko's stirring. Rising from her chair, she checked over the monitors and vitals, then offered her a reassuring smile. Naruko attempted a faint grin in return, but it quickly faded as the memories of her mission returned. Naruko-chan, what's wrong? Shizune asked gently, noticing the shift in Naruko's expression. Sasuke. I couldn't bring him back. And Sakura-chan. I let her down. Before Shizune could respond, the door opened. In stepped Haruno Sakura, her pink hair slightly tousled from rushing. Her eyes immediately met Naruko's, and her expression turned serious. Naruko. Where's Sasuke-kun? Naruko lowered her gaze, her hair casting a shadow over her eyes. She didn't respond, her hands gripping the bedsheet tightly. Naruko. Please. Where is he? Sakura asked again, voice trembling. Silence. He's not here, is he? Sakura whispered, her voice breaking. Tears filled her eyes. You didn't bring him back. You promised. I can't believe this. Naruko. You let me down, she said before covering her face and rushing out of the room. Sakura. Shizune called, upset by the outburst. She turned toward Naruko, whose head remained bowed, her body trembling. I'm sorry. Sakura-chan, Naruko whispered, but Sakura was already gone. Shizune stepped forward and reached out. Seeing the young kunoichi so crushed broke her heart. Nichin. Am I a failure? Naruko asked, voice cracking. Am I really just not enough? Without hesitation, Shizune gently cupped Naruko's face and wiped away her tears. Don't say that, she said firmly. You gave it everything you had. That's all anyone could ask of you. You are not a failure, Naruko. You're someone who fights for the people she cares about. That's strength, not weakness. She pulled Naruko into a comforting hug, holding her tightly as they let their emotions flow freely. End flashback. The memory lingered painfully in Naruko's heart. It was the first time she had truly tasted defeat, and the feeling lingered with a bitter edge. As she lay on her bed, eyes tracing the cracks in her ceiling, another emotion crept in, one she wasn't expecting. Frustration. Frustration at Sasuke for abandoning everything they had worked for. Frustration at Sakura for not seeing the full picture. But most of all, frustration at herself, for not being strong enough. She stood up and walked to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face to wash away the dried tears. Her reflection wavered in the stream from the faucet. She looked tired. Not just physically, but emotionally. I thought I was strong enough. I thought if I gave everything, things would work out. But I guess I was wrong. Then she remembered, there were still people who cared about her. The ones who had always stood by her, Tsunade, Shizune, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Team 8, Team 10, Team Guy, Konohamaru and his friends, even the Sand siblings. Her fists clenched tightly. I won't let anyone else down. I won't let any of my precious people feel alone or unprotected again. She looked up at the mirror, and paused. Something was different. Her reflection stared back, but her eyes. They were no longer just blue. In their place was something powerful, two spinning tomoe, like a reflection of her emotional storm. Sharingan? She whispered in disbelief. Naruko stood quietly at the western gate of the village, the stars above barely illuminating the road ahead. She was waiting for her teacher, Jiraiya, for a training journey that would last years. But Jiraiya was late, by 2 hours, and her patience was running thin. Her mind wandered back to the moment she first saw the strange new eyes in the mirror. Flashback. Still stunned by the sudden awakening of the Sharingan, Naruko rushed from the bathroom. Ramen. I need ramen to think. After a few steaming cups of her favorite miso ramen, she began piecing things together. Okay. Naruko Uzumaki with the Sharingan. How does that even happen? I'm not an Uchiha. Am I? Thoughts spiraled. Was she somehow connected to Sasuke? To the Uchiha clan? And if so, why now? With more questions than answers, Naruko calmed herself, crossed her legs, and began to meditate. Slowly, her consciousness drifted into the familiar dark space where the Nine Tails resided. Dark stone corridors. The echo of dripping water. At the end, the familiar enormous gate stood, paper seal undisturbed in the center. Before she could step forward, a voice rumbled from within. Who comes into my space? Asked the great fox spirit. Naruko smirked. It's me, of course. Kyuubi's enormous face loomed behind the bars, eyes curious. You have questions, don't you? You saw it, didn't you? The eyes. Sharingan. How? I'm part of your body, Kyuubi replied. Of course I noticed. The bloodline runs through your veins, though it did not awaken until now. It's from your mother's side. Naruko's eyes widened. My mother? Do you know who she was? I know, the fox replied. But that knowledge isn't mine to give. Ask the old sage you call your teacher. He knows more than you think. The fox yawned, its immense size still awe-inspiring. Now, go. I lent you a good deal of chakra on that last mission. Even a great spirit like me needs rest. Naruko chuckled. Sure. Nap well, Kyuubi. End flashback. Back at the village gates, Naruko exhaled deeply. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she would find them. And when she did, she'd become stronger, not just for herself, but for the people who believed in her. She looked toward the horizon. A new journey was about to begin. And this time, she would make sure she was ready for whatever came next. Uro-Sennin, Naruko murmured, gazing up at the serene night sky, completely clear of clouds. After a while of waiting, she finally spotted two figures approaching from the quiet streets of Konoha. One was a blonde woman with an air of authority, and the other, a silver-haired man wearing a distinctive helmet marked with the kanji for oil. A large scroll was strapped across his back. Took you long enough, Naruko said with a huff. Ma, Naruko, Jiraiya replied, waving his hands as if to excuse himself. We would have been here earlier if Tsunade hadn't insisted on stopping for a quick drink. The blonde Hokage gave him a sharp look, clearly not amused. Jiraiya froze mid-step, his face losing color as Tsunade slowly turned to him with an intense glare. Jiraiya, she said, her voice calm but firm. Jiraiya gulped. It was just a joke. Before Naruko could blink, Jiraiya was sent flying into the sky with a force that was almost impressive. He disappeared from sight, leaving behind a tiny glimmer in the sky. Naruko stared in awe. No matter how many times she sought Tsunade's strength, it never failed to surprise her. Tsunade held up 5 fingers, beginning a countdown. 5. A faint sparkle reappeared in the sky. 4. The shape of a person began to form. 3. A distant yell echoed in the air. 2. Jiraiya's face became visible, clearly panicked. 1. With a loud thud, he landed back on the ground in a small crater, groaning in discomfort. But despite the dramatic fall, the village remained undisturbed, peacefully asleep. Tsunade walked calmly over to Naruko, who gulped nervously. Wrapping her arms around the young kunoichi, Tsunade leaned in gently. Take care of yourself, all right? And don't let that man influence you too much. Stay true to who you are. Naruko nodded quickly. She already had her hands full trying to follow her path to becoming Hokage. It was much harder with a quirky teacher like Jiraiya around. Gathering her courage, Naruko looked up with determination. You better watch out, Ba-chan. When I come back, I'm going to work hard enough to take that Hokage seat from you. Tsunade gave her a proud smile. I'll be waiting, Naruko. Okay, enough with the goodbyes, Jiraiya shouted as he stepped out of the crater, looking surprisingly unharmed. Tsunade shot him another warning glare. Jiraiya, she said, her voice cool and even, if I find out you're being a bad influence, you'll be dealing with more than just a crash landing. Jiraiya gave a nervous chuckle and nodded quickly. Loud and clear, Tsunade. Before she could change her mind, he took Naruko by the arm and used the body flicker technique to disappear in a puff of wind, leaving Tsunade behind. After a couple of hours of swift travel through the treetops, they neared the border of fire and wind country. Jiraiya stopped at a clearing and gestured toward it. This looks like a good spot. Let's set up camp. I'll head out and look for something to eat. Just as he turned to leave, Naruko reached out and gripped his shoulder firmly. Wait. Uro-sennin. Just a moment. Jiraiya paused and looked back, sensing the serious tone in her voice. Her head was slightly bowed, her golden bangs hiding her expression. What's on your mind, Naruko? He asked gently. Naruko said nothing at first. Her grip on his shoulder tightened slightly, and the atmosphere around her shifted. I want answers, she finally said, lifting her head. Her eyes gleamed with determination, revealing her activated Sharingan, two tomoe spinning calmly in each eye. Jiraiya stared, his expression frozen in surprise. Naruko's voice was calm but unwavering. And I mean right now. As he stood in silence, staring into her focused gaze, one clear thought ran through Jiraiya's mind. This just got serious. It was a calm, radiant day in Konoha. Birds chirped in harmony, the sky was a flawless blue, and the streets buzzed with cheerful villagers and curious tourists. In the distance, the energetic sounds of friendly sparring echoed as jutsu clashed, and two green blurs raced along the village perimeter, passionately exclaiming phrases about the flames of youth. Yes, it was a typical day by Konoha's standards, peaceful yet lively. A young teen quietly made her way through the dense Konoha forest. Her expression was thoughtful, her steps steady as she approached her destination. After several minutes of walking, the west gate of Konohagakure appeared in the distance. Sensing a familiar presence nearby, the girl halted and looked up toward the high branches of a tree, where she felt a distinct chakra signature. Perched above her was a man with silver hair, observing her silently. Their eyes met briefly, and smiles soon followed. The older shinobi was none other than the eccentric and famed sage, Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin and author of the widely known Icha Icha series. His demeanor, a mix of wisdom and playfulness, made him unforgettable. The girl standing below was considerably younger, mid-teens, with long, blonde hair tied loosely into a small ponytail. Stray bangs occasionally brushed over her deep sapphire eyes. 3 soft whisker marks on each cheek gave her a unique charm. This was Uzumaki Naruko, once known as the #1 most unpredictable ninja. It's been a while, Uro-sennin. About a year since we went our separate ways, huh? It's been pretty quiet since then, Naruko said with a small, teasing smile, noting the irritated twitch of the older man's eye. TCH. Kids these days. Not a shred of respect for their elders, Jiraiya muttered dramatically, though he couldn't help but smile. As he took in Naruko's appearance, he noticed how much she had changed. Time had clearly treated Naruko well. Gone was the bright orange outfit of her youth. Now she wore sleek black shinobi pants tucked into dark sandals. Her top was a form-fitting, sleeveless turtleneck in deep blue, revealing her lean, well-trained build. Black bracers ran from wrist to upper arm, and draped over her shoulders was a sapphire blue cape with a crimson spiral at the center of the back, a symbol of her heritage and progress. I see you finally got rid of that outfit that practically yelled, "Look at me." If it were up to me, I would have tossed that old thing in the fire the moment we met, Jiraiya commented dryly. Naruko chuckled, rubbing the back of her head with a sheepish grin. Well, I figured it was time for a change. She then turned more serious. So, how did Tsunade Obachan take the news when we split up last year? At first? She was not pleased, Jiraiya replied with a visible shiver. Let's just say it involved some pretty intense threats and a lot of medical chakra usage I never want to experience again. Both of them winced at the thought, though Naruko's expression quickly softened. It couldn't be helped. The situation with Akatsuki was growing tense, and we had different roles to play. I kept training even after we split. Hiro-sensei helped, along with some people you introduced me to from different lands. It was a good experience, learning to rely on myself more. True. Still, it took several letters and a week of recovery on my part to finally convince her you were doing fine, Jiraiya sighed, rubbing his lower back absent-mindedly. What a week. Naruko's eyes drifted toward the gates of Konoha. A gentle smile formed on her lips as she whispered, 3 years. It's been a while, huh, sensei? Jiraiya grinned. Hey, Wait until we get inside, you'll probably be swarmed by fans faster than Guy could run around the village 10 times. Naruko rolled her eyes playfully. Please. Guy-sensei wouldn't even be able to tag me if I used the Hiraishin. Her training over the past 3 years had been nothing short of remarkable. With her mastery of shadow clones, along with the unique benefit of memory feedback, combined with a rare dojutsu she awakened, her growth had skyrocketed. Jiraiya, impressed by her abilities, trained her in advanced techniques, including the legendary Hiraishin once used by her father. Naruko had flourished in more than just ninjutsu. Within a year, she developed strong taijutsu skills, merging Guy's strong fist with her wind nature chakra to form a unique style, Kaze no Goken. This technique enhanced every strike with focused wind chakra, adding both speed and sharpness to her blows. Even a near miss could cause the air to ripple and sting. Genjutsu, once her weakest area, became a new strength thanks to her dojutsu. It gave her the tools to study illusionary techniques more effectively than traditional methods would allow. And then came her journey into Kenjutsu. That story began during their stay in Sunagakure, where Naruko reunited with Gaara and his siblings. At her request, Jiraiya helped Gaara strengthen his seal, an act that touched the young Kazekage deeply. Grateful, the Sand siblings arranged for Naruko to receive specialized wind-style training from elite jounin. It was there that Naruko observed the technique Kaze no Yaiba, demonstrated by Baki, the former mentor of the Sand trio. The ability to create a blade from pure wind chakra fascinated her. Inspired, Naruko began working on forming a stable, wieldable version of the jutsu, a proper wind blade she could use as part of her arsenal. Flashback begins. Kaze no Yaiba. Naruko focused her chakra and formed a thin arc of slicing wind, releasing it forward in a sharp, controlled line. The force of it rustled the trees and whistled in the air as it passed. A gentle breeze swept through the training grounds, rustling the leaves before fading as quickly as it had arrived. Scattered around the area were splinters of wood, remnants of what had once been a sturdy wooden training post. Naruko crouched beside the debris, picking up a few smooth fragments. Her cerulean eyes examined the fine, even cuts along the grain. Such precise strikes in just an instant. That must have been Kaze no Yaiba, she mused with admiration. That's a truly refined wind-style technique. The blonde kunoichi turned toward the tall, half-masked Jonin standing proudly nearby. Impressive. Hey, Baki. I don't mean to be pushy or anything, but could you teach me that jutsu of yours? She asked with a hopeful grin. Judging by its power and speed, I'd say it's about A rank, right? It'd be a great addition to my wind-style arsenal. Baki gave her a thoughtful glance before offering a rare smile. After everything you've done for Gaara, I'd be more than happy to. But listen carefully, I'm not great at repeating instructions, so I'll only explain this once. Kaze no Yaiba requires you to manipulate the atmosphere within a 5-foot radius using chakra. End of flashback. Through countless hours of practice, Naruko successfully developed her own wind-based sword technique. Drawing from her knowledge of the Rasengan, she shaped chakra into a stable container and filled it with fast-spinning, chakra-infused wind. The result was a technique that resembled a wind-forged blade, later named Kaze no Rasen Yaiba, spiral blade of wind, in honor of Baki's original technique. However, the technique had a major limitation: it demanded far greater concentration than even the Rasengan. Maintaining focus on the blade's structure while staying aware in battle was incredibly taxing. In real combat, that lapse in focus could lead to serious consequences. When Naruko brought up her concerns to Jiraiya, the legendary sage advised her to use a katana in the meantime. Practice with shadow clones, he said. Simulate combat situations. If you train your mind to focus on multiple things at once, you'll eventually master it. After 2 months in Sunagakure, Naruko and Jiraiya set off for Kirigakure. Along the way, the Toad Sage mentioned a friend of his, an expert in Kenjutsu and a former member of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. The moment she heard this, Naruko was thrilled and insisted they hurry, dragging a somewhat reluctant Jiraiya toward their next destination. The journey took 5 days. Once in Kirigakure, they checked into a modest inn and began their search. After a few hours wandering the misty streets, the encounter that followed turned out to be far more unexpected than Naruko had imagined. Another flashback begins. Strolling through Kirigakure's busy streets, Naruko and Jiraiya scan the crowd for their target. Uro-Sennin, who exactly are we looking for again? You only said he had long hair, dark brown eyes, was slim and about 5'9". That's not much to go on, Naruko sighed in frustration. Jiraiya chuckled. Just be patient. I'll point him out when we see him. Naruko hung her head, distracted by her thoughts, and accidentally bumped into someone passing by. Ow! Oh no! I'm really sorry, miss. Naruko quickly offered her hand to the woman she had knocked over. The woman wore a flowing blue kimono, her long jet black hair shimmering under the misty sky, and her warm brown eyes crinkled kindly as she smiled up at the apologetic kunoichi. It's all right, young lady, she replied with a gentle tone. Naruko's cheeks turned pink, slightly flustered by the woman's graceful presence. Ah! Hiro, is that you? Jiraiya's voice called from behind. Both women turned to see him walking toward them with a familiar smile. It's been a while, hasn't it, Hiro? He said warmly, shaking hands. It certainly has, the woman replied, her smile widening. Naruko blinked in confusion, glancing between the two. Jiraiya turned to her and said, Naruko, meet Hiro Murakami, my old friend from Kirigakure and a former member of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. This is the person I told you about. Oh. You're Hiro? Naruko exclaimed. I didn't expect you to be so elegant. It's great to meet you. Hiro chuckled softly. So you're Naruko Uzumaki. I've heard much about you from Jiraiya. I look forward to working with you. Jiraiya smirked as he watched Naruko's eyes widen slightly, her brain catching up with the situation. Wait. Hiro's a man? But. He's so graceful. Naruko thought, blinking in surprise. Hiro noticed her puzzled expression and gave a playful sigh. Yes, I get that a lot. My appearance tends to cause confusion. Jiraiya couldn't resist a chuckle. It's not your fault, Hiro, it's just strong family genes. Hiro gave him a look. Tell that to the random strangers who think I'm someone else entirely. It's been an adventure. Naruko giggled a little at the banter, now more at ease. End of flashback. After recovering from her initial embarrassment, and a few mishaps involving icy water techniques and overzealous training, Naruko began formal lessons with Hiro. Under his guidance, she refined her Suiten, water style, skills and learned the basics of Hyotan, ice style, techniques as well. Hiro also introduced her to the art of swordsmanship, taking her from beginner level into intermediate territory within weeks. Both Hiro and Jiraiya were impressed by Naruko's rapid progress. Even without any special ocular abilities, she absorbed new skills like a sponge, displaying natural aptitude and unrelenting drive. 3 weeks passed, and just as her training reached a critical point, Jiraiya received new intelligence from his sources. There were signs of unusual activity involving a dangerous organization. One last flashback, promise. Jiraiya entered a quiet clearing, his eyes scanning the scene. The area was damp and covered in melting patches of ice. He walked forward, carefully watching his surroundings. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice call out. Suiten, Suryudan no Jutsu. From his left, a dragon-shaped torrent of water surged forward. Jiraiya's instincts kicked in. He moved quickly, forming hand seals in rapid succession. Doten, Doryuiki, he shouted, pressing his palms to the ground as a protective earth wall rose before him. The clash of water and earth echoed through the forest, signaling yet another day of powerful training, and the growing strength of a determined kunoichi. A massive slab of earth and stone surged from the ground, reinforced with chakra, and solidified into a sturdy protective barrier. The water dragon missile struck the wall, soaking the surface and turning it to soft earth. As the Suiten technique came to an end, the wall began to crumble, its structure no longer supported by chakra. The Sanin eyed the young kunoichi and frowned slightly. Naruko noticed the expression and offered an apologetic smile, scratching the back of her head. Sorry, Uro-sensei. I didn't realize you were right there, she said sheepishly. I swear, Naruko, one of these days you're going to give me gray hair, Jiraiya muttered, though the corners of his mouth twitched with amusement. As he approached, his face grew more serious. Naruko noticed the shift in his demeanor and stood quietly, ready to listen. No matter how eccentric Jiraiya could be, when one of the legendary Sanin got serious, it was never without reason. Listen, Naruko. The Akatsuki have started moving again. My network recently sent word about their activities. This is much earlier than expected. We believed we had at least another year and some months before they became active again. I've already spoken with Hiro about continuing your training. I also passed along a list of allies who can support you. Naruko absorbed the news in silence, then nodded thoughtfully. So, we're going to be apart for the rest of the training period, huh? Jiraiya nodded, his expression still grave. It's the only way. You need to keep improving, and I need to investigate Akatsuki's movements. Naruko placed a reassuring hand on her mentor's shoulder. I understand. You've got responsibilities as a shinobi of Konoha and one of the Sannin. I'll be alright with Hiro-sensei. You just focus on what you need to do. The Toad Sage smiled at his student with pride. She's grown so much. Alright then, I'll see you back in Konoha in a year and 2 months. He began walking away but paused as Naruko's voice called out. Don't forget, you're the one who gets to explain all this to Granny Tsunade. See you later, Uro-sensei. She called with a wave before vanishing in a flash of speed. Jiraiya left the training ground with a dramatic sigh, tears playfully streaming down his cheeks as he muttered about his luck. End flashback. Time passed quickly during their separation. Naruko focused on her training under new instructors while Jiraiya continued his intelligence work. He eventually returned to Konoha 2 months before Naruko's expected arrival. For the time being, he chose to remain in the village, patiently waiting for his student, despite the occasional scolding from his old teammate, Tsunade. As Naruko approached the village gates, she glanced toward the Hokage monument. Hey, I wonder how mad Granny Tsunade is right now. Her thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. Hey, Naruko. Let's go, Tsunade's been waiting 3 years to see you. Jiraiya called from a short distance ahead. Naruko quickly appeared at his side, and together, the two made their way toward Konoha's western gate. Just before stepping into the village, Naruko paused and looked up at the stone-carved faces. I'm home. Dash. Jutsu techniques used. Kaze no Yaiba, Blade of Wind. Kaze no Resin Yaiba, Spiral Blade of Wind. Hyotan, Ice Release. Suten, Suryudan no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Missile. Doten, Doryuaki, Earth Release, Earth Style Wall. It was another typical afternoon in the Hokage's office. Tsunade sat buried beneath a mountain of paperwork, the stacks so tall they practically blocked her from view. Even with her remarkable speed and efficiency, the endless documents seemed to multiply faster than she could sign them. Shizune, diligently working through her own pile, cast a glance toward her mentor and sighed sympathetically. No enemy could unsettle a Hokage more than the relentless assault of paperwork. After 10 minutes of rapid writing and frustrated muttering, Tsunade suddenly stopped. She reached into her cabinet and pulled out a measuring tape. Let's see. 32 inches for this one, 30 for the other, and 45 for, ga. Tsunade-sama. Shizune was instantly at her side. Shizune. It's growing. This stack was only 39 inches yesterday. Now it's a full 45, Tsunade cried, pointing at the towering pile. Shizune inspected the scene and soon spotted the issue. Tsunade-sama, where have you been placing the papers you've already signed? Right here, of course. Oh. She pointed sheepishly at the same 45-inch pile. Shizune stifled a laugh as Tsunade's cheeks turned a faint red. Huffing, the Hokage pulled out a bottle of juice from her drawer and took a big sip before exhaling loudly. I swear, when I see that girl, I'm going to give her a serious talking to for making me Hokage. She muttered, rubbing the back of her neck. Before Shizune could reply, the door swung open and Chonin Kotetsu stepped in. Tsunade-sama. Are you in here? He called, scanning the room. Here. Drowning in documents. Tsunade lifted her hand above the paper towers so he could see her. Kotetsu's sweat dropped but quickly composed himself. Tsunade-sama, there's a shinobi waiting to see you, claims to be the 6th Hokage. Tsunade immediately perked up, peeking over her paperwork. Is it her? Kotetsu smiled, recognizing the bond between the two. Yes. She's returned. Send her in at once. Kotetsu vanished in a puff of smoke. Shizune's face lit up at the news, while Tsunade tried to hold back the eager grin tugging at her lips. Well, Tsunade-sama, looks like you'll get that talk after all, Shizune teased gently. Moments later, 2 pairs of footsteps echoed outside the door. The handle turned slowly. Jiraiya entered first, a relaxed smile on his face. He stepped aside, and another figure followed behind. A tall blonde teen stepped inside. She paused in the center of the room. Tsunade and the young woman locked eyes. It was Naruko Uzumaki, grown, poised, and quietly confident. I see you're doing well, Tsunade-sama, Naruko said with a gentle smile. The tension melted. Tsunade moved before anyone could blink, wrapping Naruko in a tight, emotional hug. 3 years, Naruko. 2 with Jiraiya and another on your own. You had me so worried, she whispered affectionately. Jiraiya remained quiet, letting the moment play out. Shizune was next, embracing Naruko warmly. I missed you too, Shizune-nichin, Naruko said, smiling. After pulling back, Shizune looked over Naruko. The young kunoichi had matured gracefully. Her presence felt composed yet powerful. "Nichin, you're spacing out," Naruko said calmly, breaking Shizune's gaze. The older woman quickly turned away, flustered. She noticed Jiraiya scribbling something in a notepad and began to approach him with narrowed eyes, until Naruko's voice gently interrupted. "Now that the greetings are done, let's move on to business," she said in a composed tone. Both Shizune and Tsunade blinked in surprise. This calm, focused Naruko was not the same spirited girl they remembered. During my 3 years away, 2 spent with Jiraiya-sensei and the last training with his allies, I expected some changes around here. She took a moment before continuing, "I'd like to know what's been happening in Konoha. Also, I'd appreciate updates on any activity involving certain rogue groups. I know you received the mission reports from Jiraiya-sensei." The room was silent for a moment, the shift in Naruko's tone catching them off guard. "What?" Naruko asked, raising an eyebrow at their stunned expressions. Tsunade finally stood and returned to her desk. "For starters, things in Konoha have been relatively peaceful since you left. Many of your friends have advanced to Chonin. Even the Konohamaru Corps are officially Jinan now." "Most of my friends?" Naruko asked, a bit confused. Tsunade nodded. "Hyuga Neji and Aburame Shino have advanced to Jounin. They've really grown." Naruko smiled, proud of her friend's progress. "As for more sensitive information, I'm afraid that's classified for elite Chonin and Jounin ranks. I've instructed Jiraiya not to share those details unless absolutely necessary." Naruko nodded slowly, accepting the limitation, though disappointment flickered in her eyes. Before she could speak, Jiraiya chimed in. "But there is a way for her to access the information legally, right, Tsunade Heim?" Tsunade smirked, catching the idea. "Yes. There is." Shizune and Naruko looked between them curiously. Tsunade reached into her drawer and pulled out a form. "Naruko, do you know how a shinobi advances ranks without the official exams?" Naruko nodded thoughtfully. "There are 3 ways: consistent performance on higher-ranked missions, promotions during wartime, or being tested by elite shinobi in the presence of other high-ranking ninjas." Tsunade handed her the paper. "Exactly. And this is your opportunity." Naruko read the heading, Jounin Registration. "Jiraiya has informed me of your growth and skills. I believe you're ready. Rather than have you retake the Chonin exams, I think this suits you better, unless you disagree." Naruko gave a confident smirk. "Being put in for Chonin would hardly reflect my current abilities, Ba-chan. Then head to Training Field 7. Your proctors will meet you there shortly. Jiraiya and I will be observing. We're curious to see your progress." Naruko tucked the paper into her pouch and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Shizune turned to Tsunade, concern lingering in her eyes. "Are you sure this is the right time, Tsunade-sama?" Jiraiya placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Trust me. I've seen what she's capable of. She's ready." With that, he opened a nearby window and jumped out toward the training field. Tsunade leaned back in her chair, staring out at the Hokage monument. She retrieved another bottle of juice, took a long sip, and sighed. "This is going to be a long day." Training Field 7. Training Ground 7, huh? Gazing across the familiar clearing, Naruko smiled gently. Memories of earlier days with Team 7 stirred within her heart. She walked toward the 3 wooden training posts still standing proud in the earth. Placing her hand on the middle post, she allowed herself a moment of reflection, recalling the laughter and lessons shared with her old teammates. With a soft sigh, she sat down, leaning against the post and looking up at the sky, finding peace in its endless blue. 10 minutes passed before she sensed several familiar chakra signatures approaching. Finally, "I guess Kakashi-sensei's habit of being late might be catching on more than I thought," she thought with a small laugh, remembering the countless times her former teacher had shown up long after everyone else. 8 ninja entered the field, each one seasoned and highly skilled: Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai, Asuma, Genma, Shizune, and the 2 legendary Sannin, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. As they arrived, they looked around, confused by the empty training ground. "Are you sure you told her the right place, Tsunade-sama?" Kurenai asked, glancing toward the Hokage. "Yes, I told her Training Ground 7. She should already be here," Tsunade replied, casting a meaningful glance at Kakashi. "Unless she's picked up a habit of being fashionably late." Kakashi let out a small sigh as the others chuckled. "I'm losing my reputation here," he thought. Just then, a playful voice rang out through the trees. "That hurts, Granny Tsunade. Don't tell me you've lost faith in me already?" A breeze swept across the field, stirring leaves and grass. As the wind settled, Naruko appeared before them, arms folded, her signature confident smile lighting up her face. The gathered shinobi looked at her in quiet amazement. I didn't even sense her presence, Jiraiya thought, impressed with her progress. The other Jounin shared similar thoughts. Kakashi blinked in surprise, taking in Naruko's transformed presence. And Naruko? Is that really you? He asked, stepping forward. Do you know any other kunoichi in Konoha with spiky blonde hair, whisker marks, and this much flair? Naruko joked with a wink. Kurenai's gaze lingered a moment longer than expected. Naruko noticed and playfully said, Kurenai-sensei, you're staring. The red-eyed kunoichi blushed, while the others laughed gently at her flustered reaction. Yosh! It seems that Naruko's flames of youth have burned even brighter, Guy exclaimed, striking his signature pose, complete with an imaginary sunset in the background. Naruko chuckled. Some things never change, she thought. I didn't expect you to be the one we were evaluating, Asuma commented, receiving a cheerful nod from Naruko. Genma gave her a wave, which she returned with a smile. Kakashi was still somewhat stunned. She's really grown up. Naruko. So, Tsunade-sama, Naruko said, turning toward the Hokage, who will be testing me today. A spark lit in Tsunade's eyes as she stepped forward. Uzumaki Naruko, today you will be evaluated by 5 Jounin and 2 Sannin. To see if you're ready to ascend to Jounin rank. Your opponent will be none other than Hatake Kakashi. Naruko's eyes widened, but she nodded firmly. She walked across the field until she stood 30 feet away from the others. The spectators moved to stand near the training posts, giving the two space. Kakashi smiled. It's been a while, Naruko. You've really changed. I wouldn't be surprised if you became the favorite kunoichi in the village. And you haven't changed a bit, sensei. Still teasing and showing up late, Naruko replied with a grin. They shared a friendly laugh before settling into focus. Just then, a loud voice echoed across the field. Guy-sensei. A blur of green came soaring in, carrying someone, followed by 3 more figures rushing behind. The green blur landed dramatically, revealing Lee holding Neji under one arm. Guy-sensei. Yes, Lee? Neji did something questionable. What happened, my youthful student? He used his Byakugan while Tenten was nearby. That's not true. Neji interjected quickly. I was simply practicing my technique when she walked by and spoke to me. Then why did you still have your Byakugan active and were looking at her face? Lee pressed. Because I sensed your chakra behind her and wanted to confirm it. You were crouching. I was doing my squat training. While watching Tenten? Neji countered. Tenten appeared and threw a few kunai in their direction, which both quickly dodged. Enough already, she said, fuming lightly. Sakura and Shikamaru arrived just after them. Tsunade-sama, sorry we couldn't stop Lee, Sakura said apologetically. Tsunade held up a hand. You're here now. Just don't disrupt the test. Who's being evaluated? Shikamaru asked, sitting near Asuma. A good friend of yours, Asuma replied. As everyone turned their attention toward the training area, they spotted the 2 standing figures. Sakura looked carefully. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Whisker marks. Wait a second. Lee shouted at first. Naruko-chan has returned. The others gasped, surprised by her transformation. Tenten stared in amazement. That's Naruko? Wow. Tsunade raised her hand, calling everyone to attention. Hatake Kakashi, Uzumaki Naruko, your match for Jounin qualification begins now. Begin. Kakashi immediately lifted his headband, revealing his Sharingan. Naruko raised an eyebrow and smiled. No book today, sensei? Nope. Something tells me I'll need to focus. Don't disappoint me. Neither moved at first. Then, with practiced precision, Naruko made the first move, launching a flurry of shuriken. Kakashi dodged, countering with his own. Naruko jumped, avoiding the return fire, and quickly formed a seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 4 clones appeared. 2 lifted the original Naruko and another clone, hurling them skyward. The support clones vanished upon being struck by Kakashi's counterattack. The remaining clone grabbed Naruko and swung her toward Kakashi. As she flew forward, a Rasengan formed in her hand. She closed the distance swiftly, but Kakashi caught her wrist and gently pushed her to the ground, neutralizing the Rasengan and placing a kunai near her shoulder. Smart tactic, Naruko. But not quite enough. Naruko just smiled. Bunshine Daibakua. Kakashi's eyes widened as the clone vanished in an explosion of light and force. Kakashi was blown back, flipping midair and landing with effort. His clothes were a bit scorched, but he recovered quickly, alert for Naruko's next move. He felt her approach behind and ducked just in time to dodge a kick. Using Shunshine, he reappeared safely at a distance. Naruko settled into a familiar martial stance. Kakashi was visibly surprised. That stance? Goken? Shinobi Tactical Lesson Number 1, Taijutsu, she replied playfully. Tsunade watched with a smile. Well now. Things just got interesting. They faced off once more. Then, with matching smirks, both vanished in a blur of leaves, ready to test each other's strength and skill, just like the shinobi they had become. Fallen trees and scattered craters were the only signs that a high-level taijutsu sparring match had been underway. The sounds of fast-paced movements, swift strikes, and clashing weapons echoed across the field, punctuated by bursts of wind and blurred motion. In the center of the training field stood two figures, both catching their breath from the intense practice. On one side was the famed copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake, holding a defensive stance. His uniform was scuffed, and his movements showed signs of exertion. On the other side stood Naruko Uzumaki, her golden hair tied back, her expression focused and determined. Though she had some minor scrapes from kunai, her energy remained high and her stance firm. Kakashi thought to himself, her taijutsu style resembles Gai's. That much I can tell. But what's puzzling is how she manages to land effective hits, even when I clearly dodge or block. Before Kakashi could finish analyzing, Naruko rushed toward him. The Jounin prepared to counter, but the blonde vanished from sight, reappearing above him midair, launching a powerful downward kick. Kakashi swiftly stepped to the side, avoiding the strike by mere inches. Yet, despite the narrow miss, a clean tear appeared along his sleeve. Kakashi frowned inwardly. Again. Even when the blow doesn't fully connect, there's still impact. Stay calm, analyze, there must be something subtle at work. With his Sharingan eye, Kakashi focused closely on Naruko's movements. A discovery sparked in his mind as he noticed faint, swirling lines of chakra traveling along her arms and legs. Wind chakra, he realized. She's using it like Asuma's Hien technique, creating an extension of her strikes with wind, so even near misses have cutting force. I'll need to determine the effective range. Naruko suddenly appeared beside him using a high-speed movement technique, her fist aimed precisely. Kakashi bent back, dodging just in time. A thin line tore through his flak vest, though it didn't cause harm. So that's the reach, he noted. Using the momentum, Kakashi delivered a clean kick, pushing Naruko back across the training field. She slid on her feet before regaining balance, inhaling deeply as she refocused. Looks like he's catching on, she thought with a smile. But I'm just getting started. From the sidelines, several ninja observed the session. Kakashi figured it out, Jiraiya said. You mean the reason he keeps getting grazed? Kurenai asked. The other onlookers leaned in, intrigued. Jiraiya nodded. Her taijutsu is a fusion of Gai's physical technique and Asuma's wind manipulation. Tsunade and Asuma exchanged surprised glances. Asuma spoke up, if that's true, she's using wind chakra to lengthen her strikes without physical contact, just like how I use my trench knives. Neji activated his Byakugan, eyes narrowing. He's right. I can see layers of wind chakra coiling through her arms and legs. Genma removed the senbone from his mouth and watched with interest. Then Kakashi's in for quite a workout. Everyone nodded, understanding the challenge ahead. Let your flames of youth shine bright, Naruko-kun. Guy and Lee shouted enthusiastically, drawing exasperated glances from those nearby. Naruko launched forward again, her form a blur as she closed in under Kakashi's position, springing into a rising spin kick. Konoha whirlwind. Her foot connected, but only with a wooden log. Substitution technique, she noted. Kakashi reappeared behind her, arm raised. But Naruko ducked swiftly, his hand brushing through her hair harmlessly. She countered with a spinning kick that met his side, again, a log. He's using substitutions to read my pattern. Clever, as always. Kakashi retreated into the trees to regroup. He massaged his temple, sighing. This could take a while. Tell me about it, a voice called. Startled, Kakashi turned to find Naruko standing beside him on a branch, offering a playful smile. Hope you enjoyed the break, sensei. Ready to continue? Before he could respond, she vanished in a swirl of leaves. Sensing movement, Kakashi turned, and a sudden burst of light and sound drew the attention of the spectators. A cloud of smoke erupted, and Kakashi emerged, more winded than before. A barrage of shuriken flew toward him from the smoke. Kakashi expertly deflected them all, his Sharingan darting from motion to motion. Then, his gaze locked on Naruko's silhouette among the trees. He threw a set of kunai, each tagged with paper notes, to flush her out. Naruko noticed just in time. She leapt away, landing gently a short distance away as the tree behind her burst into smoke and sparks. He's trying to force me into the open, she thought. Time to change tactics. With a calm voice and confident smile, she said, "Sensei, Shinobi Tactical Knowledge Rule Number 2, Genjutsu." Kakashi's eyes widened as Naruko rapidly wove hand signs. Despite his Sharingan, she moved too quickly. Her last seal completed, she called, "Ninja Art, Journey into Darkness." Instantly, a veil of pitch darkness consumed Kakashi's vision. Using his Sharingan, he managed to dispel the illusion, but as the world came back into focus, Naruko had already vanished. Shinobi Tactical Knowledge Rule Number 3, Ninjutsu, her voice echoed from above. Two identical Narukos appeared in the sky, hands forming seals. Fire style, Phoenix Flame Jutsu. A wave of small, controlled fireballs rained down across the field. Kakashi leapt and spun, dodging each one carefully. "What are you planning, Naruko?" he wondered. As the last ember faded, water surged across the field. A shallow flood now covered the terrain. "She's altering the battlefield," Shikamaru observed. "She's setting up for water-based techniques." "But wouldn't Kakashi benefit from that too?" Shizune asked. "We'll see," Tsunade replied calmly. Naruko and Kakashi stood across the field, water rippling under their feet. Suddenly, forms began to rise from the surface. Dozens of copies of Naruko emerged, each shimmering with chakra. "Water clone technique," she said with a smile, her confident voice echoing across the field. There were about 100 clones surrounding Kakashi from all angles. 10 of them charged in, swiftly pulling out kunai in each hand. Kakashi calmly countered, skillfully dispersing 3 of them in one fluid motion. He dodged another and dispelled it with precise accuracy. The remaining clones closed in from every direction, but Kakashi spun expertly, almost like performing a graceful dance, using his kunai to disperse the attackers in a single sweeping motion. The Jounin scanned the area, which was still full of energetic clones prepared to advance. "There are quite a lot of them," he thought. "Looks like I'll need to step things up. Good thing I've been working on increasing my chakra." He crossed his arms in an X shape, beginning to gather energy. Time to turn up the intensity. "What do you say, Naruko?" Before a response came, Kakashi's hands crackled with energy, his palms glowing with focused lightning chakra. "Reikiri, twin strikes." Naruko watched with bright, curious eyes, her mouth slightly open. Kakashi smiled in response. "You're not the only one who's learned a few new things over the years." The blonde ninja composed herself and offered a playful smirk. "All right, sensei. Let's see what you've got." Her remaining clones surged forward, but Kakashi met them with calm precision, dispelling them one after another. Naruko watched intently as her mentor cleared the field, his technique clean and fluid. With a hand sign, she called out, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." A clone appeared at her side, nodded in understanding, and slipped silently into the group of remaining doubles. As Kakashi was finishing off the last wave, Naruko began weaving hand signs. With a final strike, Kakashi cleared the field, just in time to see water erupt near Naruko, rising high in the form of a great dragon. Water style, Water Dragon Jutsu. Kakashi met the charging technique with a powerful strike of his own Reikiri. The techniques clashed and dissolved in a burst of mist. But before he could catch his breath, another water dragon appeared. He responded swiftly with his remaining Reikiri, neutralizing the second attack. He turned toward the source and saw only dissipating smoke. "A clone," he noted. Looking back to the real Naruko, Kakashi began his own set of seals. Water style, Grand Waterfall technique. A giant spiral of water shot toward Naruko. She quickly formed seals of her own. Water style, Water Wall. The two jutsus collided with a spectacular splash. Rain poured from the clash, soaking the field and everyone nearby. As the rain ceased, Kakashi and Naruko stood face to face, kunai in hand. Their weapons clashed, sparks flying with each contact. Naruko grinned. "I've got you." With her free hand, she directed her palm forward. Wind style, Great Breakthrough. A powerful gust launched Kakashi backwards, sending him tumbling into a tree. He recovered, shaking his head and watching her with newfound respect. She used no hand signs at all, he realized. Her wind affinity is stronger than I expected. This is going to be a real challenge. Guy-sensei. What was that? Lee, that was the power of youth shining brightly through Naruko's spirit. Guy-sensei. Lee. The two embraced dramatically, earning curious looks from those around them. Is it really possible to use elemental techniques without hand signs? Sakura asked. Tsunade nodded thoughtfully. Yes, if someone has a natural connection to their element. It's rare, but it happens. Gaara and his sand manipulation is a similar case. The more experienced ninja nodded, although both Sannin silently acknowledged a deeper concern. Using that technique without seals. I couldn't even manage that myself. Kakashi focused again and performed more hand signs. Water style, water shockwave. A huge wave surged forward. Naruko narrowed her eyes and responded quickly. Ice style, black dragon blizzard. An icy dragon with glowing red eyes burst forth, freezing the water as it advanced. The clash of water and ice left a shining dome of frost on the battlefield. Kakashi reappeared atop the ice dome, locking eyes with Naruko. So she knows ice style too. You've come a long way, Naruko. Activating his Sharingan, Kakashi copied her previous move. Ice style, black dragon blizzard. Naruko's eyes widened. Should have expected that. He's not called the copy ninja for nothing. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet. A blazing flame shaped like a dragon erupted from her mouth. Fire and ice collided mid-air, each canceling the other in a swirling mix of steam and sparks. Kakashi landed on the now flooded ground, standing 10 meters from Naruko. Let's see what else you've got. Naruko grinned and replied. Wind style, pressure damage. A strong gust split the water as it raced toward Kakashi. Water style, giant explosion jutsu. A large whirlpool burst up, stopping the wind just in time. Sensing movement behind him, Kakashi dodged as high-speed water bullets zipped past. He turned and spotted Naruko preparing another move. Pressing his palms down, he summoned. Earth style, mud dragon. A large mud construct took shape beside him and fired mud projectiles. Naruko dodged, staying light on her feet. I need to take that dragon out, she thought. After avoiding another volley, she readied her counter. Ice style, tearing ice tiger. A massive ice tiger dashed across the battlefield, freezing everything in its path before colliding with the mud dragon. The resulting impact left behind a layer of frosted terrain. Naruko looked around, Kakashi had disappeared. Suddenly, the water beneath her began to swirl ominously. Water style, exploding water colliding wave. Eyes wide, Naruko tried to resist being pulled into the swirling current. Strengthening her stance with chakra, she fought the pull, but it was too strong. She made a decision. Time to end this. She stopped resisting and sank purposefully. Watching from above, Kakashi looked on with curiosity. What's she up to? His answer came as Naruko clapped her hands together and shouted. Wind style, divine wind. A tornado burst down from the sky, crashing into the spinning water below. The impact rocked the area, sending wind and water flying. The surrounding ninja steadied themselves with chakra as trees bent and rippled from the force. As the winds died down, Kakashi observed the battlefield. A wide crater had formed, now filled with water. Naruko stood atop a tree branch, soaked but composed. Suddenly, the air behind him heated rapidly. He turned to see a large fireball coming his way. Fire style, fireball jutsu. He jumped from the tree, landing on the muddy field below. Across the water, he spotted two versions of Naruko, both forming seals. Water style, water dragon jutsu. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet. Twin dragons, one of water and one of flame, spiraled together in a helix as they surged toward him. Kakashi countered with a powerful jutsu of his own. Ninja art, great dragon fire. The battlefield filled with light and mist as the jutsu collided. Kakashi watched in awe as the combined elemental attack surged toward him. With a swift leap, he shifted 10 feet to the right, narrowly avoiding the incoming blast. The swirling stream of fire and water tore through the forest, reshaping the terrain with its force, then arched back in pursuit of the experienced ninja. His eyes widening, Kakashi vanished in a blur, reappearing atop a nearby tree branch. However, the relentless attack quickly adjusted its trajectory, now closing in on him even faster. Reacting immediately, Kakashi placed his palms firmly on the ground. Earth style, underground hiding technique. Just as he performed the technique, the powerful elemental strike crashed down where he had stood, erupting in a burst of energy and carving a deep crater in the forest floor. From a tree nearby, Naruko perched silently, her sharp eyes analyzing the aftermath. As the smoke cleared and Kakashi remained out of sight, she narrowed her gaze. So he retreated underground. I'll need to bring him back out. With determination, she extended her right hand and began forming a Rasengan. The sphere of swirling chakra pulsed gently at first, then intensified as she poured in more power. The orb darkened from sky blue to a deep indigo. This should do the trick, she murmured. Leaping down from her branch, Naruko descended into the crater, the Rasengan now significantly enlarged and glowing brightly in her palm. Big Ball Rasengan. The impact deepened the crater even further, shaking the ground and dislodging chunks of earth in every direction. As the dust settled, Kakashi emerged from behind a large rock that had been displaced by the attack, his eyes wide with disbelief. That was incredible. Jiraiya-sama, I knew Naruko had talent, but to develop her skills this far already. That technique was extraordinary. Naruko noticed her sensei watching her with admiration. Sensei, she called, catching his full attention. I found you. The two stood still for a heartbeat before simultaneously forming hand signs. Fire style, intelligent flame. Earth style, earth wall. Lightning style, thunder dragon flame. Ice style, frost dragon claw. Ice style, snow swallow dance. Kunai shadow clone technique. Water style, gunshot technique. Fire style, phoenix flower jutsu. Water style, water vortex. Water style, water shark bullet technique. Lightning style, false darkness. Water style, water blast. The observers couldn't keep up with the rapid succession of techniques, their eyes darting left and right with each callout. Looks like Kakashi's chakra reserves have grown, Jiraiya noted, watching as Naruko unleashed a flaming dragon breath. As lazy as he acts, he's clearly been training hard, Asuma added, though his cigarette was promptly doused by a stray water jutsu. Shikamaru sighed, so troublesome. Knowing Naruko, this could take a while, Neji muttered, his Byakugan activated as he watched the high-speed clash. No. Jiraiya interjected, drawing everyone's attention. Kakashi might have more chakra than before, but Naruko still has the edge. He'll want to finish this soon. Lightning style, thunderstorm spiral. Both teacher and student shouted in unison. Two tornadoes of lightning collided in the center of the battlefield, clashing in a dramatic display before dispersing in a tie. The field between them was now scorched and damp from their prolonged elemental battle. Both were breathing heavily, Kakashi more so than Naruko. I'm running low. I'll need to finish this now, Kakashi thought, studying his determined student across from him. Let's settle this, Naruko. One last move. Winner takes it. Naruko smiled with resolve. Bring it on, sensei. Kakashi positioned his arms, concentrating deeply. This will drain me, but it's worth it. Violet thunder flash Reikiri. A surge of chakra flared around him. Lightning burst from his hand, more intense than ever before. The grass around him wilted under the pressure, and the earth beneath him blackened. The energy took on a faint violet hue, glowing with strength. Naruko looked at him with awe. This is my perfected Reikiri, Kakashi said, answering her silent curiosity. My eternal rival has unveiled his secret weapon, Guy declared with excitement, grinning broadly. Everyone now sat by the training posts, the ground too unstable to stand on after the earlier elemental techniques. I've never seen him use that before, Kurenai commented. Most of us haven't, Shizune agreed, while the rest of the group nodded in silent amazement. Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. He's not using his eye technique. He likely doesn't want to reveal it yet, Jiraiya replied quietly. It might attract too much attention right now. Or he's saving it for an absolute emergency, Tsunade added. Back on the field, Naruko watched closely. Should I use my Kekkei Genkai? No. Not yet. The big ball Rasengan would clash heavily with that. I need a different approach. Wait, I have it. Holding out her hand, she began focusing her chakra once again. The wind responded to her control, swirling and compressing into a visible form. A blade of pure wind took shape in her hand, glowing with chakra and shimmering in the light. Wind style, spiral wind blade. Everyone watched in stunned silence as Naruko stepped forward, her technique ready, her expression calm and confident. The white-haired Jounin focused intently on Naruko, who was preparing to make her move. Kakashi surged forward, his Reikiri sparking and humming with energy as it cut across the earth. The blonde ninja reached into her pouch, pulled out a three-pronged kunai, and launched it at Kakashi with remarkable precision. Reacting quickly, the Jounin tilted his head to avoid the incoming weapon while continuing his charge. The kunai whizzed past him and embedded itself into a tree just behind him. In that very moment, Naruko appeared directly in front of Kakashi, taking advantage of the split-second distraction. Her technique, Kaze no Resin Yaiba, clashed with Kakashi's Reikiri, generating a dazzling burst of wind and lightning that shook the surrounding trees. For a moment, their powers seemed evenly matched, locked in a contest of strength and will. But gradually, the wind-based technique began to waver. Observing this, Kakashi addressed his student calmly. "This is a losing battle, Naruko. My Reikiri has the upper hand." Naruko simply gave a confident smile. "Who said I needed to overpower your Reikiri to win?" Before Kakashi could react, Naruko vanished in a blur of yellow and blue light. In the next instant, she reappeared behind him, her wind-forged blade gently poised at his neck. In her other hand, she held the three-pronged kunai she had thrown earlier. "Kyo Senko no Jutsu, Hiraishin no Jutsu," she said quietly. Kakashi's eyes widened in realization. His thoughts returned to the kunai he had dodged just moments before. So that was the setup. Brilliant strategy. She's already thinking several steps ahead. "It looks like I've won, right, sensei?" Naruko asked as she gently lowered her blade and deactivated her technique. Kakashi did the same, letting the energy from his Reikiri fade. "Yes, Naruko," Kakashi replied with a smile that reached his eyes, curving them into a relaxed expression. "You've won." The two exchanged a moment of quiet understanding before both chuckled softly, their earlier intensity melting into friendly camaraderie. Just then, Tsunade's voice echoed through the clearing. "The winner of this friendly match is Uzumaki Naruko." She and Jiraiya approached with smiles, followed by a small gathering of onlookers. Naruko, satisfied but calm, walked over to a nearby log and sat down, gazing up at the sky. "I could really go for some ramen right now," she said, her tone light and cheerful. Dear YouTube community, that's all for today's update. If you found this content valuable, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel to stay connected and support future content. Thank you for your continued support. Best regards. 6 Path Weeb.